This is Abuja. On paper, it looks impressive. The architecture is bold and modern. It's the seat of arguably Africa's largest economy, and its skyline was literally designed from scratch to project power and order. But look a little closer and you'll find that the city's layout makes everyday life harder than it needs to be for most people. It practically functions like a giant government campus surrounded by gated estates and satellite towns, rather than an actual living, breathing city. With a population density of just around 1,900 people per square mile in the FCT, Abuja is one of the least densely populated cities in Africa. For comparison, Lagos, a city with roughly 4 times the population, fits into less than a quarter of Abuja's total land area. With this in mind, you probably assume that getting around wouldn't be a problem, but this is far from reality. In fact, congestion is a daily nightmare for hundreds of thousands of residents. On top of this, public transit is almost non-existent. Housing is shockingly unaffordable for the average Nigerian, and neighborhoods are so spread out that walking is not just difficult, it's practically dangerous. So how did Abuja end up like this? And why does its layout feel like the exact opposite of how a city should work? To understand why Abuja looks and functions the way it does, we have to go back to its origins. Unlike cities that grew organically around trade routes, rivers, and population centers, Abuja was purpose-built. In the 1970s, the Nigerian military government commissioned a brand new capital to replace Lagos, partly to escape its chaos, partly to find a more neutral, central location that no single ethnic group would claim. International planners were brought in, and the city was designed from a blank slate, modeled loosely after Brasilia and Washington, D.C. From the very beginning, Abuja's layout therefore revolved around symbolism and aesthetics rather than practicality. Wide ceremonial boulevards, sweeping green zones, and rigidly separated districts were drawn on paper long before a single person moved in. Unlike the organic density of cities like Kano or Ibadan, or even the chaotic but functional energy of Lagos, Abuja was zoned into strict single-use districts, residential here, commercial there, government over there, with enormous distances between them. By the time real population growth kicked in through the 1990s and 2000s, the city began to buckle under the weight of people it was never quite designed to accommodate. New developments kept pushing further outward into satellite towns like Nyanya, Karu, Lugbe, and Gwagwalada, areas that sit far outside the original master plan and receive a fraction of the infrastructural investment of the city center. This can clearly be seen in the population numbers. The FCT's official population has more than tripled since the year 2000, but almost all of that growth has happened in the periphery, not the city center. The core of Abuja, Maitama, Asokoro, Wuse, Garki, remains relatively low density and extremely expensive, while millions of workers are pushed to the outskirts, sometimes 30 to 50 kilometers away from where they work. But what most people don't realize is the true scale of this problem and its consequences. The FCT stretches over 7,300 square kilometers, and just by looking at it from above, you can clearly see the disconnect. A gleaming, carefully manicured city center ringed by rapidly expanding, undeserved satellite towns that are growing far faster than infrastructure can keep up. Wide expressways connect these zones, but they were not built to handle the volume of traffic they now carry daily. Abuja's land use policies have made this significantly worse. The city center has been so heavily restricted to low-density, high-cost development that it has effectively priced out the very workers that keep it running. Even if somebody wanted to live close to where they work, land prices in the core, driven up by speculation and an opaque land allocation system, make it impossible for most. This kind of layout also crushes infrastructure. Roads, waters, power lines, and public services have to stretch further and further outward to serve relatively few people, making everything expensive to build and even more expensive to maintain. And the irony is that despite Abuja having some of the country's best roads on paper, the roads are increasingly overwhelmed because the entire city is designed so that driving is your only option. And that brings us to arguably the city's biggest problem: traffic. The daily commute from satellite towns like Nyanya or Karu into the city center can take anywhere from 1 to 3 hours each day. depending on the time of the day. The Nyanya-Maraba axis alone moves an estimated 400,000 to 500,000 people daily, almost entirely by road. Major corridors like the Airport Road, Kubwa Expressway, and the Nnamdi Azikiwe Expressway grind to a standstill during rush hours, turning what should be a 20-minute drive into an exhausting hours-long ordeal. And it's all a product of the way the city chose to develop. When everything is so far apart and everyone is forced to drive or crowd into commercial minibuses, there is obviously going to be gridlock at almost all times. And it is not easy to fix either. At this point, expanding roads only offers temporary relief. Large-scale transit solutions are much harder to build after decades of designing everything around the car. This leads directly into another problem: the almost total absence of functional public transit. Abuja has a light rail system sitting half-finished for over a decade. The Abuja Light Rail project, launched with great fanfare in the mid-2000s, was supposed to connect the city center to the airport and eventually to satellite towns. But due to funding shortfalls, contractor failures, and years of government inaction, only a single limited line ever became partially operational, and even that has faced repeated shutdowns. For a capital city of nearly 4 million people, that is extraordinary. In the absence of any real mass transit, residents are left almost entirely dependent on privately owned minibuses that are overcrowded, unreliable, and offer no real solution to the scale of the problem. The people who suffer most are the lowest income residents living further from the city center, who spend the largest share of their income and their time simply getting to and from work. All of this adds up to a city that, for all its beauty and ambition, struggles to function for the majority of people who live in it. Abuja was designed to impress the world, and in many ways it does, but it was not designed for the millions of ordinary Nigerians who actually call it home. It's a city built to look like a capital and not to work like one. And until the gap between the master plan and the lived reality is taken seriously, Abuja will continue to feel like a city where everything is just a little too far away, no matter how early you wake up. Thanks for watching.